Alrighty. We're going to record this finally. Gotta get my energy up a little bit. Are y'all rocking with the turban? Drop a comment down below. What's going on YouTube? My name is ACK and welcome back to another video. The storytime video I said I had a script for is finally here. In this video, I'm going to explain my path to becoming a Division I athlete. I already know because of how long this script is, it's going to be a long video, so sit tight. Without further ado, let's just jump right into this. Ow, oh my god, I just hit my knee. So this past February, I had signed my letter of intent to play football at Delaware State University, and this video is going to be pretty much everything leading up to it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. I need to warm my voice up because this one's gonna be a long one. In the off season going into my junior year of high school, there wasn't one day that I didn't go to the field and try to hold my skills. But the problem is I live in New York, so the months of December through April are always the coldest. And I would have to walk up to my school every day. 99% of the time I would be by myself and I would have to try to replicate drills I would see on Instagram. Shortly after the off season began, my team would start what is a wave? Shortly after the off season started, my team began weight training. Even during the time we were weight training, I would also try to go to the field as often as I could. On the weekends, I would always make the trip to my high school so I can hit the field. And for reference, my high school is 2.5 miles away from where I live, and I would have to walk there every single day, which would take me about 40 minutes. With the off season over, we started to introduce the offense and got to learning plays. Before we got our equipment, there were 2 7-on-7 camps that we had went to with multiple different teams. In the second camps, one of the teams we went against was one of the best teams in New Jersey, which was St. Joseph Regional. Going up against a great opponent like that, I knew it would be a great way to show what I can do. In the 7-on-7, the first team reps were split in a way that didn't even allow me to do anything. Out of 8 play drives, which is what we ran, I was only on the script for 2 plays, which means the reps were split 6-2. But half the time I was supposed to get in, I wasn't even allowed to because my head coach had purposely kept the senior in or put him back in as soon as he saw me out there. So at the end of the entire 7-on-7 camp with 4 total teams, I only got 4 total plays in a 2-hour time span. When our summer football camp began, we were practicing against another New Jersey powerhouse, which was Paramus Catholic, coming off of a state championship. This is about a month after the 7-on-7 camp, so by this time my coaches knew I could play the position. Day 1 of the camp actually went well for me. I caught everything that was thrown my way and I was beating press coverage pretty easily, which at the time was something I've never seen before since at this point I'm only 15 years old. I'll even put some of the clips of that camp on the screen right now since I know I still have them somewhere. Quality might be terrible, but you'll understand what I'm saying. You'll see it. Having a good first day against this great team had me pretty confident in what I could do. But what happened the next morning set me back an entire year. The next morning during warm-ups, my head coach had came to me and told me he's moving me to offensive tackle. Yes, I said offensive tackle. You know, the big tall fuckers that are usually like 6'4" and above and 300 pounds around there? Yeah, that position. At the time, I'm only 6'1", 185 pounds, which is literally the perfect size for a receiver in high school. My coaches had absolutely no reason to think I would be better at offensive tackle opposed to wide receiver. The switch didn't make any sense. Remember, after that practice, I just sat on top of the bleachers staring at the field, crying my eyes out. I happily never gave up on a position, which is of course why I got to where I am today. Over the next 3 camps, whenever the receivers were doing 7-on-7s or 1-on-1s, I would always go with the receivers, and I used to always get yelled at. This is one of the only times I was ever defiant to a coach, and it was honestly very reasonable. I would always get yelled at, but I never cared because I knew where I really belonged. Fast forward to the season, I had no use on the team besides special teams. That one position change sparked like 6 total position changes for me. Throughout that summer, I was never able to stay in one position for more than a week. I was always changing, so every time I changed, I would just drop to the bottom of the depth chart at that position. 6 positions total, meeting on offense and defense, both sides of the ball. But during our games, the only time I got in on offense or defense was when we were blowing the other team out and the game was already out of reach. The fucked up part about it is I never played a single snap of offensive tackle in game. I was taken out of the position I should have played and put in a position I never played for absolutely no reason. So that entire year I was just held back for absolutely nothing. The only time I played offense was when we was already blowing out the other team and it was out of position as well at tight end, which I also didn't play. On defense, I actually played outside linebacker, which is the only thing that made my junior year somewhat bearable, even though I didn't play until we was already blowing out the other team. Since every team we played sucked until we made it to the playoffs, the team really just flew through the entire regular season with no issues. And I said team on purpose because I wasn't contributing anything. By the time we get to the playoffs, I'm pretty banged up, as everyone is. Even though I wasn't playing in games, my body can't take much more because of the amount of things I was doing in practice for me not to play at all. They had me on every special team. They had me on offensive, defensive, scout when I wasn't on the field. So I'm fucked up. Like there's never a time where I have a break in practice. But when we got to the very last 2 weeks of the season, my coach decides to switch me back to receiver. And at this point, I've been going through 5 months of straight bullshit and I was tired of it. I did not feel like playing anymore. The time I spent on the field during my junior year was not enjoyed in the slightest. Looking back on it now, there was not one single day that I had fun. So for the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm actually practicing at receiver again. And keyword is practicing because I never actually got the chance to play in game. My coach's reasoning for switching me to offensive tackle was so that we can make it to and win the state championship. But we never made it there. In the state quarterfinals, we lost 14-17, which ended our season. The only reason I cried after we lost was because I knew I wasted all of my time on the team that year. There was not one point in time that I benefited from playing on that team. I ended up finishing the year without a single reception. I knew I wasn't being utilized correctly, let alone being utilized at all, so I had no clue what I was going to do. I ended up realizing that I needed to make sure that there was no doubt about the position that I needed to be playing. I worked hard enough to ensure that I was the clear and undisputed number one on the team. During the offseason after my junior year, I had decided to run track, and that's where I managed to win a state championship in the 4x100 meter relay. Going back to football, in June, we had the same 7-on-7 camp with St. Joseph Regional, but a year later. And with me finally being the number one option, I was putting on a show for all the coaches to see. I was doing so well against him that the 4-star quarterback that they had hit me up and wanted me to come play for them. Unfortunately, he deleted his Instagram account, so I can't screenshot the DMs, but just know I'm not lying. That entire offseason, I was making crazy plays and showing that I needed to be the guy lined up on the outside. In the first game of the season, I ended up getting my first catch and my first receiving touchdown. Both of them was the same catch. I also ended up getting interviewed by the local news after the game. Unfortunately for my family and I, the year 2018 was a year of many losses for us. A week before my track state championship, I had ended up losing my uncle. And after the second game of our football season, we had ended up having a walkthrough the next day because the game wasn't much of a challenge for us. For reference, we ended up winning 42-0. During the walkthrough, I had ended up getting a text from my brother that I wasn't able to check since I left my phone in my locker. To open the text, it read out, "Grandma just died." The last year and a half prior to my senior season, she had been battling with cancer. And with me being a 16-year-old kid who's just starting to come into his own, I thought I was invincible. But at the same time, I was still only a kid, so you can just imagine how losing someone so close affected me. After that happened, I completely lacked motivation to do anything. I started waking up late for school, missing multiple classes in the morning because I didn't want to get up. It was actually a pretty terrible point in my life. Fast forward to the rest of the season, I had ended up setting the receiving touchdowns record with 12. Looking back on it, I scored a lot compared to when I got the ball. Looking back on it, I scored a lot compared to when I actually touched the ball because I only had 26 receptions on the season. I finished the season with 14 total touchdowns. The other 2 were coming from a kick return and a pick 6. We unfortunately lost the state championship, which had led me to a point that I didn't have motivation for anything at all. There was multiple days that I missed school, didn't talk to anyone. Anything you can imagine me doing to avoid people, I did it. At this point, I held a few offers from a handful of D1 schools, but since I only got to play 1 year, I felt I could do better than the schools that I had offers from. This led to my choice of going to a junior college. Fortunately for me, one of the top junior colleges in the country just so happened to be in my city, and it also just so happened to be right across the street from where I live. Fortunately for me, they had offered me a scholarship, so I ended up enrolling in the summer. During fall camp, I quickly rose from the 3rd string to the starter before the first game, but unfortunately I didn't end up getting the start because I fell under concussion protocol 2 days before the game. I didn't have a concussion, but I still didn't end up starting. For the rest of the season, I started every other game as a 17-year-old freshman, beating out 2 people that were already established in the program and that were in their 20s. At the end of the season, I was talking to a handful of big schools that I would have loved to go to. But in that winter, the entire world ended up getting shut down, and we all know the reason why. I can't say the reason why because YouTube doesn't like that word, but I'ma just say that a lot of people were coughing. This was the beginning of 2020, so Do the math. During this time, college coaches weren't allowed to contact players, offer scholarships, or schedule recruiting visits. That entire offseason, I was working hard yet again to improve and get myself to a point where I could confidently say I can go to any big school in the country and play immediately. Unfortunately, that fall, our season was canceled and I couldn't show off the work I put in. The following spring, our team held annual spring ball practices against ourselves, and again, I was putting on a show. The University of Hawaii had contacted me and wanted me to transfer to play for them in that fall. I declined the offer because I felt as if I can do better with another season of play. With my second season of JUCO starting, I had my goals set to break every record and transfer out with a Division I scholarship. We ended up finishing the season 10-1 with our only loss coming in the last game of the season. I finished the year with 35 receptions, 759 yards, and 9 touchdowns. I unfortunately didn't break every record. I tied the single season record for touchdowns and was 3 yards from breaking the single season yards record, although I do hold every all-time record at the school: Delaware State University, Norfolk State University, and Wagner College, in that order. I knew that I could play anywhere in the country, so I held out and didn't sign on the early signing date in December of 2021. Because I didn't end up signing with their school on that day, Norfolk State and Wagner College pulled their offers. Pulling their offers means they took them away. After that time, I wasn't in contact with any school, so I thought I didn't hold any offers from either of the 3 schools at the time. I honestly wasn't stressing over it. I didn't let it get to me. At that time, I just kept doing what I wanted to do, which was make more videos. A couple weeks passed and I had managed to hear from Delaware State again, saying that I still hold an offer from them and we should set up a visit. A few days after that, I was offered by Northwestern State University down in Louisiana. But after that conversation, I wasn't in contact with any of their staff. For some reason, the only conversation I've had with any of them was them giving me the scholarship, and that was it. I was constantly sending messages asking the coach that recruited me from there, but I wasn't getting any answers. Fast forward to a week later, and I signed my NLI to fulfill my scholarship offer from Delaware State University. I would say my path up to this point was anything but conventional, but I do feel like I ended up making the most of my situation. I feel like I could play anywhere in the country and hope for better offers, but I'm very grateful for what I've received because all I needed was the chance. But anyway, this is just a video I wanted to make because I might end up being gone for a while. If you made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Make sure that if you're new here or returning, hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you guys in the next video.